Hey everybody, we're at PRI and it's 24 degrees outside, but it's nice and toasty in here. Thank God we're inside here. Check it out. There's all kinds of cool stuff to look at.
What does PRI stand for, Ken?
Performance Racing Industry.
What does SEMA stand for?
Specialty Equipment Marketing something.
Association, that's pretty good.
I'm pretty close.
Yeah, 7 out of 8's not bad.
Hey man, I just drive these things. I don't know how they work. I have other people that screw them together. I just drive them and blow them up. That's what I do. But hey, you know, we've run the Optima Search for the Ultimate Street Car series the last 3 years, 14, 15, and now 16's in the books. And we want to talk about 2017. We've got 7 races on the schedule, and there's also been some changes. We've added a class, and there's also a moneymaker class out there. So why don't we talk a little bit about that?
All right, well, let's start with the Search for the Ultimate Street Car. I know you subscribe to the blog on OptimaBatteries.com, so this is old news to you, but it'll probably be new news for some folks. We'll have a 5th class that we announced at SEMA. That'll be the GTC class for compact cars. Now, I think Cam and Jimmy are still hashing out how they're going to define that, but generally it sounds like it's going to be in the range of 105-inch wheelbase or shorter, probably a 4-cylinder car. So cars like the Mazda MX-5 that Eric Vandermeer runs, Doug Wynn's his Neon, and we'll get the Ford Focus ST will run in that class, and hopefully a bunch of Miata guys and Honda Civics and cars like that. 2-wheel drive, not all-wheel drive. So there'll be a 5th class, and so people know from last year we had 10 events, and the top finisher in each class that hadn't qualified for the USCA gets an invite, so that's 40 cars. This year we've got 5 classes and 7 events, so that's 35 cars. So there's actually 5 less invites there, but there's also season-long points. And so last season, the top 15 cars that hadn't earned their invitation at one of the qualifying events, based on points, got in. That was the top non-qualifier from each of the 4 classes, plus the next 11 non-qualifiers, regardless of whatever class they were in. And so mathematically, the neat thing about that was you get 11 cars that made their way in from each class, and then you get 11 cars that made their way in regardless of what class they were in.
Just so from accumulating points.
Just based on points.
Out of the top 3 races, you added up your best 3 races points-wise, and that was your point total.
For the season.
Yeah.
Or they could do really well at an individual event like Jeremy Swenson just showed up at Road America, and Chris Jacobs did the same thing. They did well at the one event, and they qualified at that event. So similar format to 2016 and 2017, except instead of the top 15, we're going to do the top 25. Okay. And instead of the top non-qualifier from each class, it's going to be the top 3 non-qualifiers from each class. And then the next 10 cars, regardless of class. And so when you have 5 classes and people are trying to do the math in their head, you get 7 events, 35 cars. So you'll get 7 cars, let's say, from the GTL class that you run in. And then at the end of the season, 3 more cars from the GTL class, the top 3 that hadn't qualified already. And then you get 10 more from whatever other class has the top, from the points. So what that equals out to is 10 cars from each of the 5 classes, and then 10 cars regardless of class. So we didn't do 11 from each class, we did 10, but we actually ended up with 5 more invitations based on season-long points or points at events over the course of the season, even though we got 3 less events. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. The blog kind of touches on something that's close to what you're working with, and that's a C5 Corvette. And I asked the question, I think the C5 Corvette, proven in part by Danny Pop, but proven also in part by a lot of other guys that run them, Brian Hoball, Randy Johnson. They're very competitive cars, they're very fast cars.
For the money too. For
the money, yeah, very reasonably priced to get into, and then to make them really nice and really competitive, it's not going to break the bank. So once you get to the USCI, I think it's proven that that's one of the more competitive cars at that event. The question is, if you're new to the series or you want to get into the series, is the C5 the best way to go, given the fact that there's so many super competitive C5s that have already been built, that already go to the USCI every year, and then guys like you and maybe Jake Roselle and maybe a couple other guys are looking at that C5 platform and moving in that direction. So that's the question I ask in the blog. If somebody's new to the series, it might be the best once you get to the OUSCI. I'm not sure it's the best to get you there, though.
Yeah, you know, I'm sticking with the Evo. The C5 for me, I didn't go out and get it because it was so competitive. It was kind of a default thing. Somebody who works for me was racing it at NASA, and he was going to sell it, and I looked at the price of it, and I says, well, why don't we just keep it in the family and we'll just run it around here locally. And then one thing led to another, and we put a bigger engine. You know how it goes. More horsepower, more brakes, you know, and now we decided to turn it into an Optima car and go stick our toe in the water. Are we done with the Evo? Absolutely not. We're not going to abandon that platform at all. I mean, it was super competitive at OUSCI. So, you know, and we've only scratched the surface on that car. When we get the engine reliable, then we can start working on tuning it and really making it handle well. So, anyway, I have a two-weapon approach to my search for the ultimate street car.
So that means
year.
the Camaro's done?
The Camaro, who knows? That may show up. You never know. You never know. We could win the points championships with the other two cars.
Ken stabbed that man with a trident of cars.
I don't know. The Z28 Camaro that we have is just such a beautiful car. I'd hate to have it just sitting there crying in the corner. But
next to the bunches of other beautiful Camaros that you have.
Yeah,
just sit there and cry when you take the Evo to the track.
You know, we may run that car at LS Fest. You never know.
Sure.
It's some other event somewhere. But right now, you know, we've got new stuff coming online, and we want to run that. And we want to make sure this Evo can make it through a whole weekend. So we're going to work on that too. Now, we talked about the new Classic car. There's also another autocross series that's going to run in conjunction with us. So tell me a little bit about that.
So we announced the Optima World Championship Autocross Series at the SEMA show.
Money.
And there is money involved in it. I don't want to say a specific number, but I've heard that the purse in total will get into the six figures, which seems like a lot of money for autocross, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it'll get spread out a little bit because I think they're looking at running similar class breakouts like they have in the Search for the Ultimate Street Car. So if you've got an all-wheel drive 2016 Ford Focus RS, you're probably going to run in the GTS class because it's over 3,200 pounds and it's all-wheel drive. I don't think they're going to have a design and engineering component in the autocross series, but I think they do plan on having some kind of street car component to it, similar maybe to the objective elements that are existing in design engineering right now. Basically means if you show up with a gutted race car, it's probably not going to be in the series. I think they're looking for street cars to run in the series. And
Still 200 treadwear tires.
Yeah, still 200 treadwear tires because we don't want to turn it into a tire battle and who's got the deepest pockets to buy new tires for every weekend and that type of thing. But I think they've talked, and everything's still tentative at this point. 3 events for a regular season and a finale in Vegas. And I'm not sure on the timing on all of that or where the events will take place, if they'll take place in conjunction with the Search for the Ultimate Street Car. Those are all things that are fluid. They're talking about it, and I think they're also talking about trying to make sure there's TV coverage for that as well. So not only is there money involved, but for folks like you who need to make a case for sponsors, television coverage will probably be a part of the package as well. Not just national TV, but also probably online, on demand, like we do right now with the Optima Batteries Roku channel, where if somebody wanted to watch past episodes of the Search for the Ultimate Street Car, they can just go on to Roku and watch them free all day long.
Yeah. I mean, that's important to a sponsor, you know. It's all about views and getting their name out there and impressions and that type of thing. So one of the good things about running this series, and it has been for the people that help us, is that including your social media presence out there, you look at that, and then also what are you going to get when you're on MAV TV all the time? What are you going to get when you're on Roku and Optima's channel as well? It just gives you more opportunities to get the people that help you, that sponsor you, out there in front of people who buy their products. So it really works out great. You can go run other series, and that's great and everything, but we run stuff that's televised, and it's pretty cool.
And the neat thing about MAV TV, and they get knocked a lot because they're not in every single household like ESPN is, but MAV TV has a very specific audience for motorsports. So when people tune in to watch a program on MAV TV, they're probably an enthusiast. They're probably the same type of people that come to the PRI show, go to the SEMA show. They've got more than one car in their garage. They've got hot rods. They're going to spend discretionary income on things they don't really need to make their car faster than it really needs to be. And with the coverage that we get on MAV TV, we get over 350 airings every year. It's almost 8 days a week that show is airing on MAV TV, all different time slots. We've got a lot of weekend time slots, a lot of prime time slots. So there's a lot of exposure there that you just don't get if, and I can give a perfect example. The Optima Ultimate Street Car Invitational used to be on the Speed Network, which turned into Fox Sports 1. So that was a much bigger audience. It aired once, and then maybe we got a token rerun at 5 in the morning 2 months later or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's not nearly the size of the audience that we get on MAV TV, especially with the repeated exposure that we get. And then when we put it on the Roku, our Roku network has only been up for a little over a month. And I think we're closing in on 4,000 or 5,000 subscribers. And our YouTube channel's been up since 2009. And I don't know that we have 2,000 subscribers on there yet. So Roku is in over 20 million households in the US. It's free once you buy the equipment. All you need is a Wi-Fi hookup. And I really think between Roku and Amazon Fire and Apple TV, which are, believe me, they're on the plans for Optima, that's going to be the future of how people consume video content, because there's a lot of people that don't want to pay for, the Oprah Winfrey Network or the Hallmark Channel. They want to watch motorsports and they want to watch this specific channel. And there's ways that technology makes that possible now, that people are moving in that direction, and you can just look at what people do with Netflix as proof of that.
Well, that's what's coming up. We're going to go take a peek around at some of the things around PRI here and let you know all about it.